channel. In this video, we're going to check out the new TFT dash and the Euro 5 MV Agusta models. So maybe you're thinking about getting an MV Agusta for the first time. Maybe you just recently purchased one. Maybe you've been riding one for a year and you want to know a little bit more about all the different settings in the TFT dash and all the different options that are available. Maybe you want to know what each one does. Maybe you haven't tried them all out. Well, in this video, we're going to go over my experience with all the different settings. We're going to go through all the different pages and adjustments that are available in this model. And I will give my experience and my opinion on how they all are and how they affect the handling of the bike. I have just over 10,000 miles on this bike, so I feel like I have a pretty good experience with each of the different settings. I have tried almost all of them out. So let's jump into it and take a look. Before we get into that, I do ask that you hit that like button if you found this video helpful and maybe share it with someone else that could benefit from it. All right, everyone, we have the dash here. I'm going to turn it on and we'll see what we see on the home screen. The first time you turn it on, well, every time you turn it on, it's going to show you the battery voltage. I do have it hooked up to a charger right now, so the battery voltage is going to be a little higher than if it were just sitting, but I know I'm going to have the ignition on for a while, so I want to make sure it's plugged in to the charger. So once you turn it on, this is what you're going to see. A couple things to note. You will have some ABS lights on, the engine light on, and the kickstand light on if the kickstand's down. Once you start riding, the ABS light and the check engine light will go off, assuming there is no issue. Also, want to note that we do have a traction control logo right there, and that's telling us that we have the traction control turned off. Over on the bottom, we have the front lift control that says 0 next to it. The front lift control is either 0 or 1, 0 for off, 1 for on, and then the traction control is 0 for off, and then it goes up 1 through 8 for the different levels. We have our tachometer on the right. We have our trip meter. There's 2 or 3 trip meters you can set. Current ambient temperature, our time, and the time of the trip. I do have a separate camera set up over here on the left side of the handlebar, so you can see the controls. This is what you use to toggle through the different settings. You can press it in, or you can scroll side to side, and I'll show you what all of those do. If you're wondering what this is a switch that I installed for some accessory lights, and I will make a separate video on that and put a link into the video right here so you can check that out. They really do help improve the visibility at night and give you a little more heads up on anything that could be incoming when you're riding. Also, this is the edge of my quad lock, if you're wondering what all that stuff is. So looking back at the dash, we can use our toggle switch to go left or right. So a couple different things we can do from here. And another thing before we get into the settings, I will note if you're seeing this blue area right here, this is what appears when you first turn the bike on, and it's telling you that the engine's not warmed up and you don't want to rev it above 7,000 RPMs. After a few minutes of riding, that blue light will go away and you'll just see your normal RPMs on the tachometer. Also, down here we have the MV logo that is switchable for a couple different options of what you can have showing up there. You can have the RPMs, I believe there's one other setting, or you can have the MV logo. I prefer just to have the MV logo. And then down here in the middle where it says custom, it'll either say custom, sport, rain, or race, and those are your different maps. All these can be adjusted in the MV Ride app, which we will talk about a little bit later. So looking over on the right side of the dash, we can see we can use our thumb to toggle over. We can look at our trip record. You can turn that on or off. And you're just going to simply press in the button and then toggle with the arrows and then select either on or off. I don't really use this. This corresponds with the app for tracking your rides through the GPS system. I have found the app to be completely unreliable. It's horrible. I can't load anything from it. It's a complete waste of time in my opinion. Unless there's some update that comes out in the future, I really don't have a use for it, only to upgrade or update the software on the bike. So looking over again, we have our front lift control. This is also known as wheelie control, and this is going to keep the front wheel from not lifting up too high. From what I understand, it does let the wheel lift up, and I have noticed that it lets it lift up a little bit, but then it will slowly cut the throttle so you don't flip over. And again, you can press it in and then toggle over to the right
one would be on, and you can select that. I usually have it off, but you can do whatever you want and whatever you feel comfortable with. The ABS on this bike, despite what the manual says, there is nothing you can change on it. It's in S for sport mode perhaps, or standard. I'm not really sure what it means, but you cannot change the ABS. You cannot turn the ABS off. I believe on the MV Agusta Brutale 1000RR, you can switch from maybe a sport mode to a race mode for the ABS, but on the Brutale 800RR, and I would assume it's the same on the Dragster 800RR, you can only leave it in this mode here. Toggling over again, we have the traction control. And as I said earlier, we can see the traction control right down here. It's set to 0, which is off. That's why we have the little notification right here that it is red and telling you that it's off. You can select that and you can toggle through 0 being off all the way up to 8 for different levels of traction control. I'll just leave it there to save time. Toggle over again. This is where you have your lean angles. So you can see, I can't really tip the bike because it's on a stand right now, but you can have this up while you're riding and you can see how far you're leaning. And then also there is an accelerometer down there that tells you your G-forces for acceleration and braking. Usually it says 0. I do have the bike up on a stand, so I'm wondering if that's maybe throwing it off a little bit, but usually if you're sitting still, the bike's upright and level, it's gonna say 0. Toggling over one more time brings us back to the standard trip meters. You see your total miles, and as you know, we just did the 10,000 mile review. We're at 10,033 miles. I will put a card for that so you can check on my 10,000 mile review, part 1. There will be a part 2 coming soon. So to get into the menu system, you're going to press and hold this for a few seconds, and there we go. So we'll just start off here. As far as this little controller here that you use with your thumb, I haven't had any problems with it. I do wish there was some type of tactile click when you press it in to select something so you kind of know you're doing it, but I guess that's being nitpicky. The only other complaint I have is you use it to go back and forth and it's right above the turn signals, which also go back and forth. And again, sometimes you're confused and you tap the wrong one because they feel similar with gloves on, but overall, I really can't complain too much about it. And again, with the turn signals, I do wish there was more of a positive click when you're pressing it in to turn them off, or self-canceling turn signals would be even better. So there is a headset section, so you can actually pair your, if you're using a Cardo or a Sena, you can pair that to the bike, and then you can pair your phone to the bike. So it'll basically run through, so you can actually pair your phone up to the dash or the computer system in here, and it will route your audio, music, phone calls, messages through the TFT dash to your Bluetooth communication device. And I did try it. I don't really find it that useful. As I said, I have a quad lock right here with my phone mounted there, which I usually have maps pulled up on. So I don't really have a need for this. I kind of like to just bypass this and connect my phone to my Bluetooth. I use the Cardo PackTalk Edge. I've been very happy with all the Cardo products so far. So that's what you can do here, and you would simply just press in the buttons and it would walk you through the menu for pairing. Moving over, we have the race portion, and if we select this, then it'll bring us down. You can see that it's highlighted red right here, and if you want to enable the race dashboard, you just simply click that, and it will say disable it. So now it's enabled. So we can take a look at that by scrolling over to the exit when it's highlighted, select it. Then we're still in the menu, so we go over again to the exit at the top, and you can see the dash looks completely different. Now, I don't really use this too much, but it is pretty cool, and you can adjust all the things that you see. So over here, it's going to show you your miles per hour, your max speed, your current lean angles, as well as your max lean angles. That is something that's kind of cool that I do appreciate and have used a few times. When I'm going around a turn, if it's a turn I'm familiar with, I want to see how I'm leaning. If I feel like I'm leaning further, it'll show me the most that I've actually leaned on it. It'll also tell you coolant temperature, and yeah, it just kind of uses up more of the screen for anything you want. And as you do see a timer up here, you can also see that if you tap the high beams, I think. It'll start the timer. You can tap them again to stop it. If you're going around a track, you can kind of time yourself. If you're running a certain route, it'll do the lap. So you see I click it again. And then you can stop them. You can reset it, I believe. And you can look at all this information in the settings. Once you do it all for each ride, it'll also track your top speed. And then down at the bottom, we do have the front. I don't know if I have it turned on right now, but the G-forces, front and rear, you can look at those. It'll show the maximum and current levels of those as well. So you can kind of get in here and play around with it and see what you want to see. We'll go back to this page, select that. So then you can look at your lap data. And you can see I don't really use it too much, but you can scroll through here and you can look at your times, look at your average speed, your max speeds, and you can select which data you want it to save and store. If we go over to the settings, you can see you can select either the max speed, you can hide it, or the average speed. And I'm not going to go through all these, but you get the point. You can see your lean angle, or all of them, which would be your lean angle, maximum, and your current, the inertial measurements, the water temperature. You can kind of mess around with all of it and select exactly what you want to see. So once we got through the race, we'll go to the next one. Hit exit. And we'll go back to the left. So this is your information. You have your software version and your program date. The last time I updated this was using the app, which was June 4th, 2022. So every time you update the software on the bike using the app, it'll show you the current date of that software. It is a little bit of a tedious process, but if you follow the directions on the app, you usually can get it to work. It's a little finicky connecting the Wi-Fi to it, and I believe you can only use 2G, not 5G Wi-Fi, if anyone is having that issue. Moving over again, we'll go to the units page, and you can see you can change your speed from miles per hour to kilometers. There's not much to say about that. And again, the temperature, you can change from Celsius to Fahrenheit. We'll go back to the menu setting, and it will come back to wherever you left off. While I'm here, I do want to change that back to miles per hour. Exit there, and we'll go back over one more. So this is your service countdown. This is a countdown that tells you how many miles you have left for your next service. If the dealer does forget to reset this while you're on this menu right here, let me go back, select that. And if you press the toggle button down here and you hold the cruise control button down, it'll allow you to switch it to the next service interval, so it won't give you a little warning every time you turn the bike on. So when I got my last service done, they forgot to do that, so I had to figure out how to reset that myself. It was a little annoying to have a reminder every time I turned it on. So this is your custom map mode. So you can see on the dash here it says custom, so you have to be in custom to take advantage of all of these different areas that you can change. And you can also manipulate these and get the proper settings that you want through the app and send it to the bike. Again, the app is a little finicky. I'd rather just do it on here. But what's nice about the app is you can see the different modes as far as race mode, sport mode, and rain mode are all different variations of all of these. So let's talk about some of these, because I do have quite a bit of experience. I guess 10,033 miles of riding with all these different ones and trying them out. So if we select this page, gas sensitivity, you have high, low, and normal. I like it in normal. The race mode puts it in high. And I spoke about this in one of my other videos. The throttle becomes very sensitive. So if you were to hit a bump, the smallest twitch of your wrist can really send you backwards. So I like to leave it on normal most of the time. The only time I really put it in race mode, which basically maxes out all of these, is when I'm out going on a ride and I'm just focusing on riding, going through some fun twisty roads, and I'm really focusing on just riding the bike to its maximum potential. So over here, we can move over to max torque of the engine. So you can either have full power or low power. I don't know why anyone will want low power, but we'll leave it in high. So if you are to switch to the rain mode, that would lower the max torque of the engine. So the engine braking, you can actually change as well. Just 2 settings, normal and low. I leave it in normal. I personally like to have a little bit of engine brake when I'm coming into a turn, although that may not be the exact or most professional way to do it. I'm just your average everyday rider who likes to go out and have fun. I like a little bit of engine braking, but that's that. You can always adjust these and play around with them and see what feels best for you. Moving over to the engine response. When I twist that throttle, I want that engine spinning, so I leave that on fast. It's a little bit different than the gas sensitivity. The gas sensitivity, in my opinion, from what I feel and what I understand of this, is what happens when you twist the throttle. The engine response is how quickly that fueling increases and the RPMs increase and the power increases. So again, you can change that from slow to fast. I like to leave it on fast. Moving over again, we have the RPM limiter, and there's 2 settings for that, hard and soft. I like it hard. If you put it on the soft setting, it'll start to cut out the power when you're getting close to the red line, which I believe is 13,000 RPMs. If you leave it on the hard one, you can pretty much just go full bore right to that, and then it will stop it there. Not too much else to say about the limiter. Moving over to the quick shifter, you can turn the quick shifter on for only up. You can turn it off, or you can leave it on for up and down. I always leave it on up and down. In my opinion, there's no real reason to ever turn it off. You can just not use it. This is the SCS version, and I will do a separate video strictly on just the SCS aspect of this bike, but this has the smart clutch system as well. So with that, I mean, it makes this bike just really fun to ride. You can really just relax. It takes your mind off everything else, and you can just worry about shifting gears and riding your hardest. So we'll go back out of this menu. We'll go over to, which I believe is the last page. This is the dashboard. So here you can set your date, your clock time, your clock format, 12 or 24 hour. You can change the dashboard background color from white to black. I'll just do that so you can see it. I like to leave it on black, but I'll show you what it looks like. And here's what I was talking about earlier in the beginning of this portion. You can change the MV logo in the speedometer, or sorry, the tachometer, from showing the RPMs to hiding everything to showing the MV logo. I kind of like the MV logo. And then you can select the time zone as well. So I'll go back just so you can see what it looks like. So there's the white screen, and this is in race mode. I will get out of race mode so you can see what it looks like. Oops, I passed it. So we'll disable the dashboard, exit, exit again, and there we go. So that is the MV logo that I was speaking about. You can change that so it actually has the live number of your RPMs reading out. However, obviously the RPMs on a bike like this are changing so quickly, it's kind of annoying to have something moving there like that, in my opinion. So I like to have the nice MV logo. So now we are back to the home screen, if you want to call it, and we pretty much covered all the different settings, all the different menu options. It really is a nice display. It is a little bit tough to see at times with the sun directly on it. I feel like almost all TFT dashes on bikes with the direct sunlight are going to be difficult to see. I will say that the turning signals, you can see them very well lit up right there. Under certain lighting conditions are also very hard to see, even though it looks pretty bright. That would be my one complaint with that. Overall, I have been really happy with the TFT dash itself. As far as the app and the app integration, I think it's terrible. I feel there's kind of a consensus in the online groups that no one's really got that app to work well with the bike. Maybe it works better with an Apple system versus what I have as Android. I'm not sure, but I have not had the best luck with that. I always see if there's any new updates and I update them and I give it a try, and still doesn't work all that well.
Well, that wraps up the overview of the TFT dash. I tried to cover everything the best I could and give my opinion on how each setting affects the handling of the bike. Like I said earlier in the video, this TFT dash is used on many of the different MV Agusta models, the Euro 5 and newer, which that is the most current rendition of the bikes. There are a few different small settings that may vary from model to model, and I cannot go over those, so I apologize for that. But if you do have any questions on this model, which is the Brutale 800RR, please feel free to leave a comment. Let me know if you have any other suggestions, or let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see, and I'd be more than happy to make a video on that. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. What's going on,